Good morning, and thank you for coming today. Just Excellency, the President is on his way. Sorry, not loud enough. Sorry, need some help here. How do you turn it on? Okay. Thank you. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Just a few more minutes, and President will be here, and then we can commence the program for this morning. If you it, mix up in the catering for this morning. But wherever you see Minister Victor, he will buy you a coffee and outside. Thank you. Thank you, and Ali, and good morning to all of you here this morning. Thank you for joining us this morning to listen to some discussions around how climate change is impacting us in our way of life in the region. More specifically, we had a little bit of it yesterday about how the impacts of climate change are impacting on the ecosystems, on biodiversity in the region, changing perhaps lifestyles, looking at the potential distribution, redistribution, migration of species and stock, and how we as a region working on initiatives to address these challenges. As someone said yesterday, that whilst we are working forward toward what we need to do to address these challenges, the issue of climate is running at a bit of a faster pace than we are, so we have to catch up. And so that is the message from all of us to those who need to do something, to do something. And so this morning, we have for you, prepared for you a session to discuss these issues and to perhaps also, if the opportunity arises, to allow for some Q&A in the session. But the session this morning will be a hybrid session. There will be a high-level portion of the session. For that high-level session of the portion of the session, we will have His Excellency Surangel Jr., President Republic of Palau, who will open the session with some remarks. We also have Minister John Silk from the Marshall Islands, who will also join His Excellency the President. And then the UN Special Envoy on Oceans, Ambassador Thomson, will join the other two in the first part of this session. We will also have a technical level discussion, and then we will have, when I call out our technical experts to come up here, they will introduce themselves. But so, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, can I now have the pleasure of introducing His Excellency Surangel Jr. to provide his opening remarks. Thank you.
Wiltutau. Good morning. Thank you, Secretary, Director Manoni, and it is good to be here. Good morning, Minister Silk, Ambassador Thomson, and of course all our friends and family from the Pacific. I have to say that this COP venue is kind of like the Pacific Ocean. It's pretty big, and you know, sometimes you get lost. So we were headed in the wrong direction this morning, but we were able to turn around and get in the right direction. And I think that's what this COP should be about, turning around and getting in the right direction. And most importantly, it's not too late, right? If anything, it's better late than never. So really today is an opportunity for us to really talk about how important our oceans are and what our responsibility is into keeping them healthy. 2 days ago, or no? 2 days ago was a historic, really, day, because it was an opportunity for us to share with the world the Pacific's commitment to ensuring that our oceans are healthy. Because we know that healthy oceans means a healthy planet. But not only that, we shared unlocking blue Pacific prosperity with the world, and also got commitments by our partners to join us in this journey. Because, we can't do it alone. We have to do it together. And I was at Glasgow in 2021. And at that time, we, of course, heard about the Eastern Tropical Pacific making their commitments. And I had the opportunity of meeting Andrew Steer. And at the time, he said, we were proposing, we want to do these commitments, these efforts in the Pacific, but we can't do it alone. We need partnership. And he said, so what's your plan? I said, well, we can start with Palau. And he said, no, that's not acceptable. Palau working by itself is not acceptable. We need to talk about the whole Pacific. And 2 years later, we're able to celebrate really bringing together the Pacific to act. And now it's about delivering. But these actions require us to do our homework, to do to look at the ocean spaces that we have, the vast ocean spaces that we have, and make sure that we manage them effectively, productively, and most importantly, to benefit the people that live in these spaces. I think many times we have big aspirations, but sometimes the reason why they're not fully implemented is because we lack the capacity, and sometimes they're just paper parks. And I think really what we've done is change that dynamic, and they're not going to be paper parks. They're 100% sustainably managed areas that really optimize optimally the benefits for the people and the planet. Because that's what it should be. It should be a win-win. This COP is, we've been talking about renewable energy and energy transition. And I was, the first few days we were here, we were at this World Green Environmental Summit. And there was, we can already transition, and it'll help create jobs, reduce poverty, and help our people move forward. But sometimes it's just getting that political will, moving to the next step, and connecting the right partners to make it happen. I think that's always a challenge that we have. So, we know that nature-based solutions work. And one of the things I've been sharing at this COP is the story of the parrotfish in Palau. And you might get tired of hearing it, but the parrotfish being protected and allowing them to be not only a tourist attraction now, and we have the delegate from Koror State that can tell you diving and seeing those parrotfish is an amazing sight. Having them protected for the last 16 years and bringing them back is so important, not only for tourism, and even though at the time it was such a big sacrifice, because not only do we eat them, but the fishermen provided a source of revenue for them. But it was a sacrifice to say, let's stop. Let's allow them to rejuvenate. Let's allow them to be healthy again. And the biggest benefit is each one of those parrotfish produces 5.5 tons of sand. And that 5.5 tons of sand, Enrique, right, is critical for saving and keeping the islands healthy. So it's about protecting our beautiful and a special planet and oceans, and making sure that we use nature to heal itself and continue to thrive and to benefit us all. So really, we thank you all for being here and the partners that we have, and let's continue to work together, because obviously working in silos doesn't work. And I'm just excited that Minister Silk and the rest of the Pacific, we're together and ensuring that we have healthy oceans so that we can have a healthy planet. So thank you, and I look forward to the discussions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, for reminding us about the need to work together, the importance of nature-based solutions, the hard work that remains to be done to bring us to where we want to be. But next on our speaking list this morning, can I invite Minister Silk from the Marshall Islands to reflect upon some of the fisheries initiatives that the Pacific has undertaken, the context of FFA region-wide and the P&A, and to share that with our audience today. Minister Silk, please.
Thank you, Manoni, and good morning to all of you, Mr. President. I wasn't expecting to be involved in this morning. I got a note from Minister Victor that basically forced me to come here. And so I keep on harassing my staff. Where is he? So finally I'm here. Victor? But really, as you know, in the Marshall, in the Pacific, in Micronesia, in the Forum Island countries, we have a number of institutions that have been established: the FFA, the P&A. And these are two institutions that have to deal directly with fisheries, and these are the two institutions that have been upfront in protecting our fisheries resources through conservation efforts and working with WCBFC, Western Central Fisheries Agency. I've been able, throughout the years, monitor and especially allow fishing to be done in the Pacific in a sustainable manner. And also, we have also collaborated with other government agencies in trying to protect our resources by trying to eliminate, but so far we haven't been successful 100% on IUU fishing, which is a curse to us in the Pacific. But really, over the last couple of years, one of the things that we have done, especially with the P&A, is to establish a quota on fishing in each of our zones, and also to implement what we call the VMS system, vessel monitoring system, and BDS. And that has resulted in increasing revenue to all of our fisheries in the Pacific. And before that, basically, everybody had any foreign fishing company basically run the Pacific as they wanted to, and they could harvest whatever amount of fish they could, and only pay us a little bit of what they earn in terms of revenue. But we have moved away from that, and each of our individual countries are licensing, issuing license to all these fishing companies. But we also limit the amount of fishing efforts that each nation can put up in selling licenses. That's one of the things that we have implemented, and I'm very happy to say that throughout the years now we have really been able to not only conserve our fisheries, but also to get more benefit out of our fish than in the past. So that's something that I think we give a lot of credit to the P&A, but also to the FFA. Just recently, for example, the FFA signed an agreement with the United States government for the next 10 years. The U.S. government will fish in our waters and pay $60 million a year for the next 10 years. That's $600 million over the next 10 years. That's a big increase from what we have been charging the U.S. government and their fishing fleet for all the past years. So that's something that has really moved the bar as far as our efforts to not only get as much of our fish, value for our fish, but also at the same time conserve and protect our fisheries. Just recently also the Marshall Islands, through the Marshall Islands Marine Resources Authority and in joint venture with Nature Conservatory, have established what we call the Pacific Island Tuna. It's a small, it's a company that's basically geared toward, instead of just selling the license, but actually selling the fish ourselves, get the fish and sell it to the market. And that we have done, and as far as I know, we have, through PIT, have been able to sell all the fish that PIT gets to Walmart. So there is a contract with Walmart that we signed recently that allows us to market our fish with Walmart, and we sell our fish to Walmart and they can it. And so far, I think last time they canned about 40,000 cans of tuna. But that's only the beginning. And what we're trying to do is get the rest of our Pacific neighbors to see if they would be willing to join in this effort to actually work through Walmart and sell our fish. And one of the other things that we've discussed is that because some of us, like the Marshall Islands, we don't have the space, the land area, to build canneries. But Solomon Islands and PNG have the canneries. They're already there. So what we have been talking about is how we could marshalize how we can collectively work together so that we can get the fish and have it canned through either Solomon Islands or PNG. And so that basically we would be selling our own fish. We could buy the fish. We would, because right now we don't have the capacity to actually go out and fish because we don't have the resources to build the purseaners. But what we are doing is sell the fishing license to these companies and buy the fish from them. So basically they fish for us. They only get the license, they get the permit to just fish. But we get the fish from them. This is what PIT is doing now. Get the fish from them and sell it. And right now we're selling it to Walmart. The idea is that we could expand on this so that others could join our effort and that we could even, instead of selling it to the outside, to Taiwan or the Philippines or Thailand, we take the fish ourselves, can it, and sell it, which we would get more for the money, for our resources. So those are some of the things that we are working on. But I'm really happy to report that this agreement that we have with Walmart not only allows the Marshall Islands to engage with Walmart, but we are inviting the rest of our Pacific neighbors to engage and join us in this effort. But it also makes it available. It's kind of a gateway for our neighbors in the Pacific to penetrate to the U.S. market through Walmart. So that's something that they have not been able to do in the past, but we're hoping that with the opening engagement with Walmart, we will have our neighbors in the Pacific join us or deal directly with Walmart and sell their product and fish through Walmart. So that's one of the things that I think it's going to be a game changer for us in the Pacific. But there are also concerns, and one of these is climate change, because we have been discussing the fact that with the water warming up, scientists are telling us that our fish would migrate somewhere else in the Pacific. And that's our main source of revenue for all of us in the Pacific. So for us, this is a threat to the livelihood and sustainability of our island nations and economies for all of us there. So that's why it's so important that when I was called by Victor to come in this morning, I had to wear my 1.5. Because in order to maintain this 1.5 or below that, we need to have the bigger polluters around us live up to their commitments and upscale their commitments and NDCs. But like I say, we would be happy now, but if nothing is done to stop this warming, then the resources that all of us depend on, it's not only just the revenue that comes in, but you have to remember that when the seawater warms up, it affects the livelihood of people that basically use the fish for their survival. Onshore fishing, these reef fish, will all die out or migrate somewhere else. So these are critically important that we maintain this 1.5 degrees Celsius. And Mr. President, you mentioned about how we can work on making sure that we were committed to protecting our fisheries and islands. And the other day I heard someone say, we have to make peace with nature. I think that's very true. And how we do that, I think we have to start here. We have to let the polluters know that they can't continue to harm nature, that peace and nature go along together. So we have to work with nature and make peace with nature. And I think if we make peace with nature, then all of us benefit and nobody loses. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Silk. Definitely agree with your analysis there. And all of this hard work, all of the potential for economic development will come to zero if nothing is done about the impacts of the climate. So thank you for the message. At this time, can I now invite Excellency Ambassador Thomson, the Special Envoy, the UN's SG's Special Envoy on the Oceans, for his opening remarks. Ambassador Thomson, please.
Yeah, Nimulvunaka, and all courtesies observed. Mr. President, you have done a great deed for the Pacific Islands in what you engineered after Glasgow. $100 million day before yesterday from Bezos Earth Fund. $125 million on the back of that from Jeff for the Blue Pacific Prosperity Initiative. Can I say it's just the beginning? We need to start adding noughts to those numbers because that's the size of the challenge ahead of us, and we've got the right people to add those noughts. Let's use all the leverage we've got. The shift to renewable energy. That's what we're actually here for, the shift to the renewable energy. What does that mean? Moving away from the oil and gas industry to renewable sources of energy. One thing we know, and we're learning at this conference, is the oil and gas industry is not going to give up lightly. Everything you see around you here is built out of oil and gas. And they're not going to give that up lightly. And you can see that my boss, the Secretary General of the United Nations, he's got a fight on his hand down the road here. Because every time he says something about shifting to renewable energy, the oil industry representatives here, right from the very top of our conference that we're attending here, said, oh, the science is not behind that. You'll always need oil and gas, right? So we've got a fight on our hands. And it's a very serious fight because from what we can see, they are actually stealing our children's future. Well, in my case, my grandchildren's future. 3 degrees is not a livable world. And that's where they're taking us with their fossil fuels by the end of this century. You know, my granddaughter, if she doesn't get caught up in one of these enormous storms or one of these enormous fires or these floods that are coming from the sky, if she doesn't get swept away in one of those, you know, she's going to still be very much in the fullness of her life when we get to that 3-degree world at the end of the century. And that's where they want to take us. So it's unacceptable. And we have to take a fight. It's a big fight. And we have to be part of that. You know, when you look at pictures like this, I know people usually look at the fish, but being from the islands myself and having pulled so many Evinrude, you know, things that start the outboard engine and the smell of the benzene and the water getting in the benzene and your engine breaking down, all the rest, that's a huge part of our culture on the back of those boats there, right? Outboard engines, right? The technology exists for those engines to be electric, right? It's available now. People are going around with electric outboard engines. We don't have them. One of the reasons is we don't. There's no point in if you don't have something to plug the engine into when you get back to your village or to the wharf. But that's where the renewable energy transition is so important. You know, all our villages should be operating within the next 10 years. They should all have access to renewable energy, be it solar, be it wind, be it wave, be it tidal. Again, the technology is available. The money is starting to come our way finally to do that. But we have to be, we have to get that done, and we have to get it done fast because time's running out for our grandchildren. You know, recently, I bought a car for the first time in 25 years. I don't think private ownership of cars is a great idea. But my 3-year-old granddaughter, we've got to get her to school. She goes to a special school. And so we bought this car, fully electric, Chinese made, half the price of a Tesla. It's so easy. You just plug it in like an electric kettle. You come home in the evening, you just plug it in. You know, gone are the days of going to the petrol station and using that dirty stuff and being part of that horrible industry. Gone are the days for me with this beautiful little car we drive our granddaughter around in. So it's available to us, but we have to make the switch in our own minds as well and call on our governments to get the infrastructure in place so that we can be part of that new world, that renewable energy world. There's a couple of things I wanted to follow up with Minister Silk, and we were talking a little bit about it before we started. Fisheries, 34% is what FAO reports as our overfishing globally of global fish stocks. 34%. Every time that we have a meeting in Rome or at the UN Ocean conferences, this is the report, 34% overfishing. This is crazy, just really crazy. We have to live sustainably. So one of the things that I'm doing with the Solomon Islands government and with FAO is we're arranging what's called the Honiara Summit. It's going to happen at the end of July next year, which is just going to be addressing SDG 14.4, which is, the proper management, scientific management of our fish stocks globally. Why Honiara? Honiara is home for decades of the Foreign Fisheries Agency. We have 60% of the tuna stock, the world's tuna stock in our region. It's the best managed stock in the world. There's no overfishing going on. So we don't want to wave the finger at other areas, but we want to invite them to come and show them how we do it and why we are fishing sustainably with our tuna stock and share those practices. And there's a lot we can do to improve as well, of course, on inshore fishing and so on. So that I look forward to that, Minister, and to seeing you there at the end of July in Honiara. Can I just mention very briefly OPOC? The decision was made by our leaders to locate the OPOC office in Palau and for the position of the commissioner to be separated out from the Secretary Generalship of the Pacific Island Forum, where it had been for a while. And I've discussed with President Whipps, with Minister Victor, and with Dr. Manoni, the fact that when the office is up and established, and that move is going on at the moment, that it's really important that the world understands the importance of this role in this office. This is not a regional matter. This is a global matter. The Pacific Ocean Commissioner is appointed by 17 heads of governments and territories appointed by them, mandated to be the voice of the Pacific Ocean on ocean matters. This is a very, very significant appointment. And the fact that that office is now going to be separated and be established there in Palau, this is a global matter. So we're very hopeful, and I think from talking to the President, the most likely thing would be that it would be October when you have your national celebrations next year, that we would maybe string it around that, because there'll be a lot of attention on Palau at that time, and we can write on the back of that for the OPOC office to be understood, because I can guarantee you at the moment it's not kind of globally understood. I know it's understood in the region, but we've got to get it up there to that level. Because, why? Because the Pacific is the biggest ocean, part of the ocean in the world, and we have a commissioner who speaks for it. So I just want to underline that for you. And I also, I know it's a pain in the neck coming to these conferences. It really is. You wonder what you're doing. Your knees are giving out. Your brains are giving out. But we have to be here. It's about networking. You know, we saw the dividends of that with what the President managed to do with Bezos Earth Fund and with Jeff. So we have to be here. And it is great networking, let's face it. But we have to remember we're here to fight the enemy, and the enemy is the oil and gas industry. And to push them into that renewable transition. But because of that, we're going to have to be in Barcelona in April. When I say we, I mean the Pacific has to be there. That is the big ocean science moment. And all of these decisions that we're talking about have to be based on good ocean science. So the Barcelona meeting in April is the assessment moment, halfway moment in the UN Decade of Ocean Science. And we are already fully engaged in that, mainly through University of South Pacific, but it's another occasion for us to up our game, to get the resources coming into ocean science into our region. And that's just so important for ocean acidification, the ocean warming, the effect on fishing, our reefs, etc. And the other really important one, of course, is Nice, UN Ocean Conference coming up June 2025. And the SDG 14 and the UN Ocean Conference system to keep the SDG 14 honest would not be in existence if it wasn't for the Pacific island countries. Some of the people in this room were part of that fight to get that into existence back in 2015. So we have to be there in Nice again. We have to be leading, because the world expects us to lead, because we come from the biggest part of the ocean. And I know it's a hard ask, Mr. President, but we really expect to see you and your fellow leaders there in force in Nice. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Thomson, himself a Pacific Islander and a very strong supporter of our oceans. A champion as well for us, whilst he's doing the work for the UN SG. He's very much a part of us as well. Renewable energy, of course, is where we need to go. And we need to convey that message very, very loud and clear to those who need to know. So thank you very much again, Ambassador, for those words. So what we'll do now is that at this juncture, we will now ask the technical panel to come up to the front. They will share a few of their ideas, and then we can round off with some closing remarks from our high-level panel following that. Okay. So can I ask the four technical panelists to come up to the front, please. Okay. Thank you. Is there one more? That's my seat. Sorry. Okay. We can start. Introduce yourselves, and then we can carry it on from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. He said we will do self-introductions. So I'm Luz Isal. I work with the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Environment in Palau. I will share a little bit about what I'm currently doing. Right now I am sort of the team lead for our marine spatial planning process that we have been undertaking at least for the last year or so. Commissioner and all the high-level speakers referred to the event that we were at 2 days ago. And I think we're the people that when these kinds of aspirations are announced, our hearts and our stomachs are, not in the right place, because we're trying to think about how these big aspirations hit the ground. And I think this panel will kind of try to visualize or try to say what is on the ground now and how we can transition into this unlocking within the context that we are working. So Palau began the MSP process a year ago. And we've been on the fence about the MSP process for quite a while, at least until 2018. And we came to this process in a very controversial time in our conservation story, where we saw the clash between conservation and protection really crashing with our sort of aspirations for our sustainable fisheries. It was new to Palau because we'd never had this experience before, but we know that we see this across the Pacific. It's not new. It was new to people in Palau, but it was not new to sort of the fisheries conservation dual objectives within the region. So we spent a lot of time, I think, in the last year. In the first 2 or 3 months was really focusing on the governance structure, because we really wanted to make sure that the process was transparent, that people, different perspectives were able to put forth their ideas around the table, that the different levels of governance partners were also around the table. And so here are some of the lessons I think that's emerging out of this process. One is I'm one of 2 staff who are currently working on this MSP process. So institutionally, I mean, at a UN conference, we often talk about instruments, legal instruments. We rarely talk about the institutions that are needed to be able to deliver on the aspirations or the objectives of those instruments. And so even within our ministry, we're not structured to be able to deal with this kind of ocean planning. So this is one lesson. The second lesson is that because we wanted all the partners and we want to be inclusive, but there's also the downside when you have too many partners, you cannot decide on things. And then it takes a lot of effort to manage the expectations of the relationships of the different partners. And sometimes, this is just my personal experience, sometimes there's so much coming in that you almost can't hear your own self think. Sometimes I spend 80% of my time speaking to external partners and 20% talking to the fishermen in Palau. What are their aspirations? And so this is kind of the things that we want our external partners to understand, that sometimes we need time locally to be able to process and understand at all levels of our society what some of these aspirations might mean. And then I think the third is really human capacity. I talked about institutional capacity. This is really human capacity because we have climate people, negotiators. We have people that are in the biodiversity space that go to CBD. We have people that go to fisheries, and it's all in silos. And Palau is in a unique position where the environment and fisheries are in the same ministry. So we see this kind of identity crisis when we go to these different fora. So the climate negotiations, CBD, and then fisheries. So we need the human capacity to be able to facilitate through these very tough convergence of these very big things. And we need to train local people, local Palauans, local Pacific Islanders to be able to facilitate these often very controversial, and rightfully so, issues that have really meaningful impact on the ground and to human lives. And so we really need people that are objective, that can understand some of the science, the policy, and then some of the social development issues. And I think that really is at the heart of really the policy element. we are in Palau do not have an ocean policy at the moment. We think that perhaps the MSP process can be sort of a process that leads us to really defining our ocean vision and how we are going to translate that into our Palau context. So those are some of the experiences, Commissioner, and I would defer to the other panelists.
Thank you. Sherry will give us some reflections on.
Yes. So good morning, everybody. Good morning, distinguished visitors. So I come from the Caribbean. I am Sherry Constantine. I work with the Nature Conservancy. I've been with TNC for the past 10 years. I'm a marine biologist by training. I've spent a lot of time working on marine protected areas, sustainable financing, etc. So my role with the Palau MSP is to be the technical lead. I provide technical support in terms of trying to understand what are the tools, the methods, the science, etc. How do we bring that to the table to make decisions around the Palau MSP? To add to what Luke said in terms of things that are needed for the MSP, I think one thing is the data and information, so the science components, because that is what I bring to the table. So Palau is a very biodiverse country. Everybody knows about Palau and about the biodiversity, about the beautiful coral reefs and everything so. But the challenge is when you do marine spatial planning, you need data and information. So it's not anecdotal where, wow, we have beautiful corals, our coral biodiversity is 90% and that kind of stuff, but you need the information to be able to make decisions. And what we're finding, especially in the deep ocean where we're working, there is lack of data and information. So that is one area that I think that all countries, and especially Palau and maybe even Pacific countries, we need to boost up. How do we get the data and information that we need to make decisions? You want to make policy decisions, you want those things to be grounded in legislation, but you really want the data, the information, the science that would allow you to make those decisions so you know you're making the right decisions for your country, you're also making the right decisions for your people. The other thing I want to mention is time. A marine spatial planning process takes time. I remember my first experience. So the Nature Conservancy, we did a marine spatial planning process in St. Kitts and Nevis in 2010. So from there, we came up with nature conservation priority areas. We had fishing priority areas, etc. It was not until about 2013 that we actually got the 2-mile radius around St. Kitts and Nevis declared as a protected area, and we finished the MSP in 2010. So it takes a lot of time for you to get to that point where it is that you've built the stakeholder movement, the advocacy, you've spoken to your policymakers, etc., to be able to make decisions. And even once you've declared the areas, you don't want paper parks. You want something that is implementable, you want effective management, and so you want to be able to have the systems in place for you to implement. That goes back to what Luke said about the technical capacity, the human capacity, having the organizations and the institutions in place. Because marine spatial planning is a process where it's holistic, where you bring all of your sectors together. So it's not the silos of fisheries, of biodiversity, of conservation, protected area management. It's bringing all of these entities together for them to make coordinated decisions about what is supposed to happen in your marine space. And so you need to ensure that you have those institutional arrangements built to be able to get this MSP done. So you need time to do that. I mean, everybody understands that it takes a long time to get us to the point where it is that even institutions in our countries who speak to each other all the time, for them to find a way to work together to be effective. And so that is something that is important. So for the Palau MSP, I mean, we came in all excited that we were going to get this thing done. We were going to do it in 2 years. And I think we're recognizing that, as Luke said, even trying to just build the interactions with the stakeholders on the ground. We talk about a transparent process. We talk about a participatory process. We talk about a science-driven process. All of these words are beautiful words, but they take a lot of work, they take a lot of time, they take a lot of trust building, and this is where we're at with the Palau process, really trying to work with the stakeholders to build that trust. Even when we meet with President Whips, when we do our executive committee meetings, it's trying to get them to understand that the process is going to take a little time, it's going to take some work, but we are setting the foundation right, so we know that when we have a process that is completed, it is robust, it is sound, and I always say nobody can poke holes in the Palau process that we've built. Thank you.
Thank you. Importance of traditional knowledge as well.
Yes, definitely.
Penny will share from the regional perspective.
Thank you, Commissioner, and Dr. Manoni is my boss, so he's already giving me that look. No pressure. I'll just speak a bit on the regional policy space. And I'd just like to make 3 points here. Trying to bring through the conversations that's already happened. In the regional policy space, most don't like policies because they say you can go ahead with your work without policies, but in some sense, the policies are critical to providing the directions in what needs to be done. The 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific, it's what the leaders have decided as the 2050 vision, what their vision of where they want the Pacific to be by 2050. There's 7 thematic areas. There's one on ocean and disaster, and there's one on ocean and environment. The beauty of this strategy is it comes at a time when there's a plethora of global frameworks, where there's so many issues across the board, and of course the 2050 strategy for us, as implementers, it provides the priorities for us. It provides the direction. So, and it also covers the emerging ocean issues like sea level rise impacts, that impacts on our maritime boundaries, settling our boundaries for our homes. It covers issues such as BBNJ, the new instruments that will allow us to better govern our oceans. The second point I wanted to make is strengthen ocean governance. When Commissioner joined in 1st of August, he convened a regional ocean policy and governance dialogue to take a stock take of what's happening in the Pacific. And we have a very interesting developments taking place at the regional level in the Pacific. We learned from the Western Indian Ocean that they are just now going into a regional ocean policy. Whereas for the Pacific, we had a regional ocean policy in 2010. And so we have developed our regional ocean policy in 2010. And from 2016, we saw countries starting to go to develop their national ocean policies. And I know that Palau is also grappling with that question. The Western Indian Ocean, they sort of had their national ocean policies first before they developing their regional ocean policy. So their regional ocean policy is sort of standing on the stems of the national ocean policies across the region. For us in the Pacific, the 2050 strategy is calling for a review in our regional ocean policy. Since 2016, we have seen a positive trend where countries are starting to develop their national ocean policies. We have about 8 countries in the Pacific that have already developed their policies, and a few are already taking that step or that leap to develop their national ocean policies. So once we review our regional ocean policy, we are sort of standing on some firmer ground where we are standing on national ocean policies. What this does is the national government's efforts on ocean is more organized at the national level. The coordination is much more improved. And of course, I think that will make the Ocean Commissioner's work much more easier, connecting to one coordinated office. The final point I wanted to make is we are noticing a trend in the Pacific where countries are taking that leap to develop their marine spatial plans and to develop their national ocean policies. And the trend differs across the Pacific countries. The different countries are paving their own way and developing their own journeys. Some have developed their national ocean policies first, then doing their marine spatial planning, and some vice versa. They've begun with their marine spatial planning before they are thinking about developing their national plans. So these are the trends that we are noticing in the Pacific, but what this does, all in all, is sort of strengthening the management and governance of our Pacific Ocean. I'll end it there, Commissioner. Thank you very much.
Just received an indication that time has caught up with us. But if I can check with Mr. President, did you want to have some closing comments before we do? Thank you.
There's never enough time to talk about oceans. But, I really appreciate the panel, of course, Minister Silk and Ambassador Thomson's comments. This is all about working together to meet the challenges that we have, and really inspiring. And thank you for your comments We have a lot of work to do, and it never ends. It needs to continue, and I think that's it's a process that, you know, in Palau, I think we got the process a little different. We committed, then we're doing the plan, but it doesn't matter. What matters is we know that we need to make those tough choices because our planet needs us to make those tough choices and make those commitments. And if we put the cart before the horse or the horse before the cart, it doesn't matter. Just so it gets done. And because our children deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A lot of good ideas this morning from our high-level panel. The importance of working together, what is at stake if we don't work to get that through the climate effort, and also the technical level issues that are important to safeguarding also the data capacity, and as well as policy governance for the region. Thank you, Mr. President, for coming to this today. Thank you, our panel. Thank you, Minister John Silk, and also Ambassador Thomson. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this morning. Naka.